point of figuring it out and putting it out there. And I think that's a really interesting part for us to talk about. And I think,
yeah, and that's going to lead us into tapping, because all of that, the stumbling blocks are psychological.
yes.
So I'm happy to talk about this. I didn't mean to say you're trying to make me do content. I'm actually glad and taking opportunities that
Yeah.
give me purpose and useful. I got a little irritated at 5:30 this morning.
We're live, I think. I think we just went live.
Hey, everybody.
That's it's been really fun that Facebook is not really clear exactly when you go live. Like,
Right, don't be picking your nose.
yeah. Oh, but did you want to finish what you're saying, or?
Oh no, it's all right.
Okay.
It's a wild ride, these days. I think everyone's waking up at odd hours and jumping on Facebook and checking out YouTube in the middle of the night. I'm no exception.
Yes, odd hours, and I all these things that we counted on as being totally dependable are revealing their fragility, and therefore how precious they are. To feel that oh, I think it's going to work, but maybe it won't. Maybe just by a little extra prayer energy, I can make this connection across the world actually stay strong and happen.
Yeah.
So, and we're feeling.
I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I was thinking of my luminaries. Who, when I feel myself as the earth, when I look out and see who my luminary stars are, the ones that inform me, or at least anchor some of my identity, anchor some of who I am, I thought, okay, I want to reach out to all those people and check in with them, because if I find them valuable, I'm sure other people will find them valuable too. And I've been having some great conversations with people, and I thought, well, why not just share this? Like let's not hoard toilet paper, and let's not hoard our time either.
Totally, right? And why not? We have a captive audience, so to speak. Everyone's at home looking for something to do and a way to stay connected and inspired. And so that's generous of you to share what's happening in your life.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, I when I was talking about you, I said one of the things that I thought was the most, you've done a lot of things for me. I've learned a lot of things from you. But the one thing I credit you with the most is getting me out the door as a healer.
Oh.
Meaning there's a lot of preparation, there were a lot of conversations, there were a lot of skill building. But then when I worked with you, it was the first time I thought, let's just do it. Let's just do it for real. Let's put it out there. Let's actually charge money for it. Let's actually do it as a service. Let's actually do it as a thing that I do, not as a job even.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a powerful hump to get over.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And actually, it's one of my favorite topics. I call it divine purpose, which is related to a very strong belief I have, actually a knowledge I have, that we each have skill sets that are intuitively built into our psyches, into our souls. You could say it's part of our design.
Yeah.
And when each person does what they're designed to do, I believe this world will be structured very differently. Number one, people will love what they do.
Yeah.
All the time and energy that they invest in doing it won't feel like work, because work is like something I'm doing for money that I have to do to, but it's not really what I like to do. And so when we are aligned with our mission and our design and our purpose, then I believe that the world will reset itself. People's lives will be happier. Their relationships will go better. That people will have a strong sense of contribution and joy. They'll be fascinated with their work. They'll take the time to go deeper and cultivate and study and blossom and grow and research and develop and experiment. And everybody loves to pay people to do something that they love. We love to pay people who are enthusiastic, whether it's enthusiastically baking or enthusiastically designing how to educate kids or gardening or in your case, healing, in my case, kind of the healing arts as well. Um, because you can see that their heart is into it. So you know that you're getting quality, and it's
Yeah.
inspiring to be around those people.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think people inherently know this concept. They know they see people who are living their purpose or living their dream, or they see people that energy is just flowing through beautifully, and they think, oh, I should be this. Of course I should be this. Of course I should do this. But one of the first challenges people are presented is, well, what should I do? What is this? Sometimes people say, I want to be living my life purpose, but they're not sure which mechanism or vehicle or class or profession or whatever that thing is. So I'd love to talk a little bit about how a person even walks towards something like this, how they even get a clue as to what that thing could be.
Well, for me, I mean, I can really only talk about my experience and then the ways that I've helped other people. My personal experience is um, being guided through dreams and meditation, that I was supposed to be a healer. I had
Mhm.
never even heard that word. I thought that was a doctor. And I just thought, man, no way am I going to be going to medical school and going through that whole rigmarole. And
Mhm.
um, there were also other skills I had, and I grew up in a world where you pick one thing and get really good at it. And I think that's the way that our society has given us this kind of a structure. You are this because you do this one thing. But I do
Yeah.
a lot of things. I sing, I dance, I paint. Obviously, I'm into designing clothes. If you've seen, anything I've done at Burning Man and costumes.
Oh, yes.
I like creating sacred spaces and setting up spaces for optimum blossoming, holding space in such a way, asking questions that prompt people to understand and grow and to nurture them along. And so I thought, well, which one of these skills should I get good at? I'm also really good at nurturing human beings and helping them develop. Did a lot of work with kids for a long time and raised a child.
Yeah.
And I was struggling because I thought, well, I'm going to have to give up all these other parts of myself to develop this singular part of myself to prosper. And when I meditated, Spirit was like, hey, I gave you all these talents. I want you to use them all, because I was asking, which one, Um, and when I really got it, that I was supposed to use my talents, there's a parable in the Bible about the person who has a talent. They call it a talent. In that culture, it was a coin, and they bury it underground. And they're like, the master comes back, look, I still have the talent you gave me.
Mm.
And then the other, servant who was given a talent has multiplied their talents and grown them. And I thought, okay, in that parable of the talents, I'm going to be using all of my skills, and I'm going to design a job where I get to do it with all my skills. So I created elaborate, beautiful costumes for myself to teach. I'm definitely working with kids, even if their bodies are in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, because we're
Yeah.
doing a lot of inner child work, which is where, the emotional development is either stuck or needs to grow. And I'm also creating graphics. I went to school for commercial art and didn't know what I would possibly use it for. And now I understand images and headings. There's a part of me that's poetic and likes to write. And so I'm writing these descriptions, and I'm writing titles and things that will, send a message in a really succinct way, like a poem does, that is captivating and stimulates the imagination.
Yeah.
And then also learning to edit. Even editing an email is like writing a little story, a love poem, right? So I find that if you can surrender to your true nature and trust
Mm.
it, the talents that you have will create a unique offering, which is what the business world says, do your thing and do it uniquely and what sets you apart. But if you're trying to do it in the old status quo and cutting off all these parts of yourself, it won't feel unique and it won't bring you joy. But when you do align with what's true and right and wonderful and beautiful about you, and you don't shut up and you don't back down and you don't let yourself get bullied by society or what your parents will think, or if anyone else has ever done it this way, you don't become a copycat. Well, what are the successful people doing? I'll just rip off a version of their thing. But you actually let your unique self shine after you're done being ridiculed and mocked and going through hundreds of insecurities. People will actually laud you and support you and tell you that you're wonderful and amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that bridge sometimes that I think people have the challenge with, of because most, just like in the Wizard of Oz, when she starts off in the yellow brick road, it's a little bitty spiral, and the spiral unwinds and takes her on a whole adventure. But that very beginning is just a tiny little point, and people, I find a lot of people are trying to learn how to step on that point and start that little spiral. And there's a wonderful moment when it takes off and you're pretty clear. You're like, this is going somewhere. I feel this. I feel something happening. But bridging that moment and stepping into it is where it's nice to talk about this spot, because what I'm hearing from you, it's a little bit about recognizing the aspects of you that light you up, that feel like your true nature, and noticing them, identifying them, giving them airtime, letting them expand, investing in them, nurturing them, and
getting over the fear of being seen that way. Again, there's so much conditioning that you have to muddle through and process, because if you're being true to yourself in a culture that's taught you to placate, and to truncate yourself, and to sit in a row in a desk under fluorescent lights and be one of the numbers and compete, if you're afraid of of how people will perceive you, then it can be very, very terrifying to begin to notice and then hold true to that, which is really the point. You have to hold
yeah.
true to it to master those areas.
What was the one that was hardest for you to be seen as? Like, what was the
Oh man, how many dozens? I remember a time when just sitting in a circle and you go around the circle and say your name, and my heart
yeah
would just start pounding, my throat would choke up, I could barely squeak out my name, my voice would drop. And each week, I was in this ecstatic dance, and we'd have a little opening circle or a closing circle. We have to get to announce something or say our names. And I would just be terrified. And I would just, Sonya Sophia, I would try it again. And I think for me, being heard was a big deal.
yeah
I grew up in a religion where, children were to be seen and not heard. And especially women, and especially blonde women, and so allowing myself to have the voice that is true and authentic to my heart was really scary, but
yeah
also truthfully talking about things that relate to spirit and love.
Mhm.
This has also been so downplayed in our culture that it's been mocked and laughed at, when I think we're finding out right now that the most important thing we have is each other and love. That's
Mhm.
it. Like, when we know that we're loved and we have connection, we can figure out anything.
yeah
That is our number one resource, is love.
yeah I like that. You can bank on it. It's one of those things that sometimes we have to translate. We're in a model where we're looking at the bottom line, and that has its place. It's important to be real. Like, anyone who's ever held a retreat knows that there's a budget, that you have to deal with those real things. But you're taking this essence and actually putting it, it is the foundation of those real things. It becomes the things that enables the numbers, enables the other structures.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the part around technology. I think everyone's also having a huge, if you were technophobe before, it's probably really daunting to suddenly, like, hey, get your thing online as fast as possible. Learn how to live stream, learn how to Zoom,
Yeah.
learn how to, create quality content real fast.
Yeah.
So there was a time when, when we met, you helped me with some technological stuff, and I was very dyslexic at the time. Anything with buttons and wires felt pretty overwhelming. And I'd already been working on that for several years. So,
Yeah.
thank you for using your skills in computer programming and helping me get my early websites up. I still have a lot of your work intact in my sonyasophia.us page. That's
Yeah, I just went to it. I went to it to link to on Facebook, and I was like, oh, I remember that background.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
that
of
flower.
course it would. And I remember the huge insecurity I had too around how my webpage looked. And there was a moment, Eric, where you sat me down and said, look, because again, ego and fear and shame and embarrassment and all of that stuff was at play. And you said, look, I want to show you the websites of the top EFT practitioners right now in the world. This is like in 2009 or 2010 or 11. And you just said, stop, look how beautiful your site is. And I was like, oh, because, I didn't know what beauty and perfection was on a website, but whatever I was doing just wasn't going to be good enough. So you kind of set me straight.
Yes. Yeah. I'm fascinated with the spiral, the place where um, people make the small step. So many people think they have to be able to make the big step. And I think one of the things you taught me beautifully was paying homage and proper respect to the baby step,
Mm.
because the baby step is in, it's not out. It is, it's not isn't. And even if you are making that baby step, you are being it, and that beingness expands and gets bigger, and you get better at it and you get new ideas. But it's that first little baby step, or the first 5 little baby steps.
The
And
first 50,000 baby steps, most of them are going to be wobbly.
yeah.
Um, and if you think about climbing a mountain, I know that you're an intuitive walker. You've taken me on so many intuitive walks. I remember one around London that just was one of the best days ever. Remember doing the haka
Oh my
together?
God, surrounded by 1,000 shirtless rugby players. Woo!
I know you were in heaven. You're like, yes, found my community. But the mountain climbing analogy, where how do you get to the top of a mountain? It's 1,000 little steps where you concentrate on this foot in front of the other and that foot in front of the other, and not all of them are sure steps, and sometimes you have to do a little turnaround or a reroute or a rest or a pause. But the only way you get to the top of the mountain is by getting up again and putting one little step in front of the other. And you can't stare at the top of the mountain the whole way or you'll fall off the cliff. You actually have to look at the step that you're on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually you look up and you're like, how did I get here? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, all of those free events I did, all of those, yes, I will care for you and send you the message and give you the link and let me resend the link that didn't work last time and let me refund you your money and let me be willing to raise my price, and all of the things showing up again and again and again. And when you're in that moment, it feels like, oh, am I getting anywhere? Is this any better than it was a month ago or a year ago? Have I done it? um I'm pushing a button here on the screen, and it's all of those little tiny steps added together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. One thing is that when you're climbing up a mountain and you take the time to look back, every 15 minutes the view gets better and better and better. So it's not like one of those marathon races where it's an 8-hour drudge and you finally get to the finish line. There's a million little finish lines, and every little baby step, even if it's like this tiny, has a frequency match. Like that new frequency you step into has a reflection that's waiting for you in the outside world. And even the tiniest little adjustment, even the tiniest little movement forward has a gift for you. Even if it's a tiny gift, you feel it. You feel it.
You do. And I think you're really good at noticing that. I think, especially at the beginning when you were helping me, build my website, I was so focused on getting somewhere and having, like, okay, now it all works and now it's all perfect. And no, it's actually a constant updating and upgrading and things breaking and redoing and fixing and trying again and reinstalling and
Yeah.
you know, figuring it out. And there's not a perfect solution. There's not a perfect way of doing anything. It's got to be good enough. And the celebrating of tiny victories, little vista points along the way, actually accumulates into a feeling of success, but it's not a finish line.
Yeah. I remember some of your finish lines that always stuck in my head. I remember how you would feel it would take a day to write a page. Like you wrote your bio. It took a day to just sit down and give it the proper respect that it deserved. And I love that because I'm like, it's okay for it to take a day. And I found sometimes it takes 5 days for me to describe yourself or come up with a way to say who you are and what you do in the world and even give proper name to it and make it translatable. But I remember that burned it's one of those moments that was so bright it burns a little spot in your brain. I could see you at your little desk like, okay, I wrote it. Yay.
Yeah. And you know what? How many times I've rewritten that thing?
Mm,
Probably at this point, twice a year.
mm-hmm.
Because when I go back to look at it to send it to somebody else who wants it, um, I read it and I'm like, oh, who wrote this thing? And it's like, oh my goodness. And I can see the level of, I would say, confidence or self-esteem I had at the time. It was the very best I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can see from where I'm at now how much less needs to be said and how much more assured and confident I am because I've had that much more experience. So, one thing I would say to people who are learning how to put themselves out there and to give their gifts to the world is there's going to be a lot of redoing,
Yeah.
and it's a humbling process. So it's just like tending a garden. You're going to be updating, you're going to be digging something up, replanting, trying something else, nurturing something along that's continuing to grow. Like this website that you gave me is still beautiful. It's still working, it's still functional, it's great. I've done a few updates, but basically it's what you gave me and
Yeah.
it's awesome.
You've expanded. Now you're doing the World Tapping. That was something you were just talking about, the World Tapping Circle.
Yeah.
Now you've got a platform. You've been broadcasting for years now.
Yeah, like 6 years every week. So that's the next point. It's consistency.
Mhm.
The old story of the farmer going out and pulling on the roots to see if the plant is growing and like uprooting everything.
Yeah.
You can't shout at it. You can't tug on it. You have to be consistent. It's like, I'm going to go out every day and give them a little water. I'm going to talk to my plants and I'm going to come back and do it again. And that's one thing I've really noticed is that if you don't shut up and go away and you continue to persistently return, A, you'll get better at it.
Yeah.
B, it'll get way easier.
Yeah.
C, you can do it in your sleep, because it becomes so easy. I can talk on camera quite easily now. It was terrifying. I think the first What is the World Tapping Circle video I did, I must have done 20 takes. It took 18 hours to record.
Mm.
And that's not true anymore. I just cut a video and shot it in a day. And, just like that, a high quality, beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that. I appreciate this conversation because this is such an important conversation. I think that people there's something in people that wants to be nurtured, and you're talking about the process of making room for it, watering it, um, how it grows, and this becomes a person's creative channel in life. This is that soul expression, and a soul expression, of course, can happen in a job. Like some people find a structure around them that really aligns to their heart, and there's enough of a safety and communication channel with the structure and the people in the structure that it can adapt and expand with the person. And then there's a lot of people who don't have that, that they have to create it on their own. And these are often people who are the paradigm pushers. Like if you have to create it, it doesn't exist. That probably means that you're pushing the envelope of reality. And
Yeah, and I can tell you that there's been a lot of tears and a mountain of tissue around that. Like, ah, I'm trying to do something that's never been done. And I started doing, webinars, webcasting, when the internet said it was possible. But guess what? The internet actually wasn't up to date yet.
yeah,
And I got to go through all these iterations and different platforms breaking and malfunctions and
right.
forgetting to record it. And oh my God, I had sweat stains in my armpit the whole time, or my lipstick was on crooked, or so much. Getting to see myself on video, hear myself on video. I was, the first whole year of tapping circles in my video library, I think I deleted them. I had weird lighting. It was just, and people were like, no, the content is so good. And I was like, no, my ego won't let it happen. Luckily, I still have 5 more years of content that I just said, But if you go into the video library, you'll see where I went through a headband phase, real into the headbands that are meant to be worn up here. But I thought they would look much better straight across my forehead. And at some point, I think I was so nervous that I was just piling flowers higher and higher on my head. And they had to be real flowers because I was authentic, and I was buying flowers and getting flowers out of people's yards and sticking them on my head and trying to take myself seriously. And, whew.
Well, I think you're such an envelope pusher on using your personal creative expression in terms of your look and your identity and who you appear to be, and making that the medicine. When I first met you, had the beautiful yarn ribbons in your hair, and I'd never seen that before. First of all, oh, they still there? Oh, they're still there.
Yeah, I just need a few more because, I shed, and it's been a
Yeah.
minute since I had my hair done.
Ah, they're kind of hiding now. They're a little more clandestine. Um, and kind of going for it, just letting yourself be the character you wanted to be. And that's not necessarily everyone's path. Like uh, some people might get, the nervousness created by that may be a lot to hold for someone, but you use that personal expression and your identity to actually be part of the medicine that was delivered. But
Well, thank you. I have to credit one of my past tapping clients for that. Long before I met you and before I started broadcasting, and I was just um, doing sessions in my living room with individual clients and doing little circles in my living room with people. I probably did that for 10 years before the internet. But I remember admitting to someone that I was afraid that I couldn't look the way I wanted to look. I think I had just discovered my yarn hair look,
yes.
and I wanted to keep it. I put it in for Halloween and was like, I now look like I feel, and I am never taking this out of my hair again. And I've been changing it out. It's been like 12 years or something. And they said, well, if a healer can't do it, who can?
Mhm.
I went, oh, yeah. Because I thought I would have to like be some stereotype that was in my mind to fit in and to be accepted and to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So that was a deliberate choice of like, look, if I'm going to be slogging through the world's pain on a daily basis, the saddest stories of rape and torture and neglect and narcissism and abuse, and I better have a good outfit that makes me feel happy.
Well, superheroes need to be identifiable.
Totally, right? And you're going to feel better if you're being true to yourself.
Yeah.
So I hope that when we come out of this whole COVID-19 experience, that people are way less bullyable by the status quo. I hope that we're like, working in your pajamas is totally acceptable. And working in your prom dress is totally acceptable.
And 3 dozen bouquets of flowers and a prom dress.
One of the last things I bought in my panic buying, spree that we all did was a giant bouquet of stargazers, which is my signature flower. And so my room is still blossoming with these flowers, and they smell good and they keep me alive.
Everyone else is like, we need canned food and toilet paper. And no. Sonya's like, do I have enough flowers to last me?
I'll tell you, and besides that, I have a little bidet. So there, a few years ago, and I don't know, maybe you were in London when I was putting one in there, but you get a little kitchen sprayer, a little T-valve, you hook it to the back of your toilet with a little plumbing tape, and you can go, and you're good.
Same setup. It's amazing. You never want to go back.
No, fresh and ready for anything.
And you don't chafe your butt with a bunch of raw paper,
An English gardener said, look, if you're digging in the garden all day and you're getting your hands dirty, would you go into the house and use a piece of paper to try to clean them? I was like, oh, yeah. Go take a paper towel and try to get the dirt off your hands.
Yeah, no.
Kitchen sprayers, folks. Home Depot still has them.
Brilliant. So as a person, let's kind of go a little bit further into, we're looking at a person who has started to identify the things that light them up, the things that are their gifts and talents, the frequencies that they can start to weave in together and form a fabric of what they can offer. How about as people start to step into it? I noticed for myself, like just putting these videos out this week, I went gung-ho. I think I did like 10 videos in 5 days or something. And there's definitely some moments where you're like, yes, we're changing the world. And then there's some moments where you're like, there's nobody who cares, and there are these waves that you go, the peaks and then the dips. And it really does feel like one of those sine waves, and I'm curious if you've had similar experiences in your life. And
oh my gosh,
how does a person deal with those signs?
Whole time. Yeah. For me, it's about motivation. If I'm doing it because I need applause, if I'm doing it because I need money, if I'm doing it because I'm not sure who I am without some acknowledgement or somebody there to bounce back to me that I did a good job, or that I'm a real person, then I'm going to suffer the whole time, and there'll never be enough numbers. I saw over 200 people sign up for the World Tapping Circle in a day. I sent out an email last week saying, okay, y'all, I've dropped the monthly subscription because I know people are suffering. I've dropped it down from 27 a month to 19 if you can afford it. And if you can't, come for free. And here's the link to do it for free. Full same user experience. Over 200 people signed up in 24 hours. And I'm super grateful. And my platform's built for 10,000. You'd think I'd be psyched to have, 500 people in my circle. And I'm like, well, that's not even close to 10,000. Then I'm watching videos like this and being like 1, 2 live viewers, 0, 1. I'll usually get on and just give a lot of hearts, and get off and go to the next one and give a lot of hearts, like I'm helping. But yeah, it's been disheartening on some level, and on another level, when I really ask myself, why am I doing this? It's because when I die, I want to know that I gave what I came here to give. That I've left a legacy of love, that there is a path that has become gilded with presence and commitment, that it doesn't really matter if people liked it or didn't like it. It doesn't really matter if anyone used it or paid attention. What matters to me is that I did what I said I would do.
Yeah.
And when that's my motivation, uh, it's okay if I'm broadcasting to an empty room or 10,000 people. It feels the same.
Yeah.
And in February, I did broadcast to 10,000 people. We launched our new platform, and the numbers grew and grew and grew, and people shared it, and we Facebook streamed on multiple platforms, and I partnered with Unify, and they put it out, and within a week I had 10,000 people tapping.
Wow. Wow.
And then I made all those videos free
Hmm.
perpetually.
Hmm.
I don't believe in the scarcity economy that we've created. I don't like how it feels. I don't like doing it. I think that when we give, we should give. And I think that what we're in the process of doing right now is aligning with why we're giving, how we're giving. And when everybody shifts into that, there will be so much abundance and prosperity. Nobody will lack for anything. We will trade things that are missing in our wheelhouses with our beautiful gifts. We will know that just that spirit of generosity, even if I give you something and you don't have something I need to give me back, I give it to you anyway, because that creates a ripple in the field where somebody I might not even know yet comes and says, "Hey, honey, I see who you are and how you be, and I want to give to you."
Mm.
I've seen this work again and again. So I'm a firm believer in the spirit of generosity. And I think that we're replacing capitalism, competition, scarcity, and lack with generosity, love, and abundance.
Hmm. And that can even kind of come. I'm seeing that that has a way of being like a vital life tree sap that actually can move up into capitalist structures
Mhm.
and enliven things that may look like old dried bones of a tree, and it's suddenly this vein of sap can move up through these structures.
Yeah. I put a donation button up in my circle in my video library and mention it once at the end of the circle and say, okay, if you can donate, please do. I'm
Mm.
getting donations every circle.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Oh, that feels nice. But you mentioned the field. I love the concept of the field. I'm curious, could you expand on that a little bit? Like what your idea of the field is?
Yeah, well, every living thing has an electromagnetic field that it emanates. The earth is a living thing. And you can look at NASA, you will see a field around the earth.
Mhm.
There's a biofield around every plant, every person, every animal, and all of these fields are overlapping
Mhm.
and exchanging information. People are exchanging information by thinking about each other. We're broadcasting brain waves. We're broadcasting waves of frequency from our hearts.
Mhm.
Heart Math Institute is all about it. These fields are real. They can be affected by other fields. We're
Mhm.
looking at how people are freaking out about 5G because it's an electromagnetic field that's affecting frequencies. Um, but when we're in a loving space, when we're in a connected space with ourselves and our own, say, true nature, our field is strong, and it's putting out information that when someone thinks about us or thinks towards us because they see a picture on Facebook or they see somebody's name or they hear someone's name and we think towards someone like, oh, how's Eric doing?
Mhm.
We're actually receiving data from the field about how Eric's doing. And
Mhm.
if we fine tune ourselves, I notice for myself that when I think a question towards someone, I get a pretty solid answer about how they're doing. It may not be every little detail, like, oh, he's just finishing brushing his teeth, but I can get a general sense of well being. I can get a general sense of if I ask a question, I can hear basically the truth coming back, and I can validate that by asking this person in person.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's correct. So I know you know this. I know you're asking this for the general public. You're one of the most intuitive and telepathic people I know.
Well, my images that when I kind of reference the field, I think of two pictures. One of them was the wonderful work of Barbara Brennan, where she diagrams these beautiful layers of the human auric field, almost like a biologist would label a bisection of a frog leg. You know, it's
Mhm.
so detailed and beautiful. And it looked like the core of an apple, you know, that kind of parabolic shape of energy moving in a circuit. And then the other picture I have is the picture of the Earth, where you have the magnetosphere forming this beautiful arced, almost angel wings around the planet, and um, that field is in a current and it's interacting with a cosmic stream coming from the sun, and the sun, of course, is pushing particles expansively from its core out through the entire universe, creating a bubble basically of electric energy, and that that stream is then interacting with the magnetosphere. So it's almost like, I don't mean to be too mechanical, but it's like these interlocking gears where the planet has this flow around it, and that's actually connecting to the sun's flow that envelops the whole solar system. And who knows how many more of those current flows that we're tapped into all the way up, that we just haven't sent enough little Voyager satellites far enough away from us to actually get and comprehend.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's kind of,
And that field carries information,
yeah,
you know? It's made of light, it's made of energy, and if you know about Wi-Fi, for example, there's a field. It's carrying information, and we depend on it right now,
yeah,
you know? And each person is also broadcasting and receiving. And what's interesting to me about that is I actually can emboss the field with information and imprint that field with information as a transmitter and as a receiver, and so can every other person. So I'm not just affected and buffeted around by the field. I'm also in charge as a sentient conscious being about what I'm adding to the field. Am I adding to the fray? Am I adding to the chaos? As a lot of us have been hijacked in our imaginations about, oh my gosh, we're all dying. It's like,
yeah,
well, A, we're all going to die anyway. And B, what should I put into the field if that's the case? If I'm going to die next week, or if I'm going to die in 25 years.
mhm,
So, I've been practicing this death meditation for 20 years. If today was my last day, would I be satisfied with how I'm living this last 24 hours? And I get a pretty high score on that internal check in at the end of the day.
mm. Me
And
too. I just made a delicious pad thai, so I feel very satisfied.
yeah, did I have the conversations I want to have?
Mhm.
Did I leave things in a good way? Did I tell people how much I love them and why? Was I encouraging? You know, it's not to say I don't have moments. What we were talking about, I think, when the recording went live, and you're like, "Do you want to talk about that?" I was like, "No." But basically, what happened is that my video tapping circle that I did last week,
Mhm.
my tech guy put out some version that was recorded on his computer in the other room
Mhm.
that had him talking and tapping and burping and his voice overlapping, and I shared it in like 75 places yesterday. Like, I'm here for you. We're getting through this. This is a deep dive within. I love you all so much. It's free. Listen to it. And I start getting complaints like, what the heck is this? It's like static and him being like, "Rah," and talking over me. And I was like, oh my gosh, at 6:30 in the morning, I'm like texting him and trying to call him and being like,
Yeah,
my reputation.
yeah.
Yeah, a little processing to do this morning. Being like, "Yeah, there we go."
It's like you're inside the body of someone who's processing now. You know?
Just like it,
Yeah,
So I had a moment of adding to the fray. And then it
yeah,
was like, well, and I have a beautiful conversation to have with you and to give my love back to the world. So took care of that. That video should be down at this point.
yeah.
And hopefully the correct version up, and on we go.
I have to say I have become deliciously um, comfortable and expectant of the flow in my life at this point in time. Like I've been working with some of these laws for a long time, so there's kind of an expectation that things will work out. There's a kind of a it's almost like if you park your car at a restaurant and the valet knows you, always knows where to park your car, you're just used to it, and then one day you show up and the valet is like, who are you? Sorry, there's a lot of people in front of you. Why don't you park your own car? And all of a sudden, that flow is not working. And when you're used to the flow happening, then it can be a real hiccup when it's like, wow, suddenly the universe wants to remind me that sometimes things get crunchy and sometimes things don't flow. And now what? Now who are you? You know,
Yeah,
now let's see what comes out of you.
right.
And it always reveals something, you know, sometimes it's about feeling powerless or out of control. Sometimes it's, I notice when things break, it brings up this almost persecution energy that I track. And I'm tracking it over time. So I'm thinking, okay, this is something that I'm encountering and I'm walking around the hill. And soon enough, I'll start to understand the whole thing that's there, you know, and it doesn't always have to reveal itself all at once. It's sometimes these little snags over time start to reveal your next evolutionary journey.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I used to also have a feeling of persecution. And the way I work with it within myself and my team is I do EFT and say, okay, I'm feeling persecuted. I'm feeling sabotaged. Where does this come from? Why is this happening? I.e., my response to it is being cataloged as such. Well, I grew up in a church
Mm-hmm.
that said, expect to be persecuted for your beliefs.
Yeah.
That was ingrained.
Yeah.
Because the early pioneers were tarred and feathered and run out of town, and we came to respect and love and venerate them. And if you kind of weren't persecuted, I'm sure anyone who grew up in kind of a Catholicism or Mormonism or any of that, we have a martyr who's still hanging on his death thing and being told that this is what a good person is going to go through, and you should try to be like this good person. And so as I have processed that out, that feeling of being persecuted has gone down.
Yeah.
And it's less like I'm being persecuted. It's more like, well, okay, something's happening here with my tech guy. I'm not pleased. I remedied it, but I'm not going to like lose my center and feel like I'm being attacked by the universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like I even feel like, you know, I have my ways of dealing with those things. I feel like the universe even says, hey, I want to shake you up a little bit, you know. I will. And I noticed that happen a lot 6 months previous, and I had these experiences. I don't know about you, but looking back 6 months ago, all of these things that didn't make sense that I was being prepared for make total sense this month. You know, it's like, why am I dealing with this feeling of disruption? Why am I feeling like it's so hard to connect with people? Why am I feeling, and I think sometimes some of us get a little pre-tread. It's like the universe is like, hey, why don't you prepare for this energy because it's going to be hitting everyone else in a week or a month or so.
Oh, totally, Eric. I mean, you know, in February, I basically spent a year rebuilding my World Tapping Circle platform and raised, you know, in the last 6 years, of about $2.5 million to develop it over time. And then it was like, great, I've built an ark that can hold 10,000 people. Why did I do that? Nobody cares about doing their inner work. They're all so externally focused.
Yeah.
And nobody has time, right? Suddenly it's raining and I have an ark. And
Yes.
people are like, oh man, my mental state really, really matters.
Yes.
My happiness is a key to my immune system. Oh my gosh. I'm like, but it also gave me that feeling of like, now my life makes sense. And I'm glad I listened. It did make me feel a little crazy working so hard for a year to
Yeah.
launch the thing. But now I'm like, okay, good. I have a safe place to help people process whatever's coming down the pike. And I have enough practice now to know how to hold that space no matter how hard the grid is shaking.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I see it a lot of times, and I like these disaster movies because sometimes they show a person persevering and making it happening with the scraps left over, with the undependable elements. And it feels a little bit like this is a moment where we're doing that. It's like the things that we relied on for security, there are things that we relied on for safety, the things we relied on for connectivity. It's like the field wants to just withdraw them ever so slightly to say, well, can you still be this? Can you still embody this? Can you still be connected? Can you still be safe, even when these structures that you built everything on seem to go invisible or disappear or wink out, you know?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's being withdrawn ever so slightly. It's like, okay, on your market set, everything that was rhythmic and count that you could count on in your life,
Yeah.
your job, your ability to go to the grocery store, seeing your friends every week at this social thing that you always do that's like a mainstay of your life. We're just gonna bleep that out
Toilet
now.
paper.
Yeah, toilet paper. Even our economy, I mean, that
Mhm.
seemed like it could never really change. Maybe it dips up and down a little bit, but I've never seen millions of people out of work simultaneously just from one week to the next.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I've seen this happen where a performer is on stage and they have, $1 million of equipment. They have a team of 17 people running a soundboard, pre-programmed light show, everything. And then the power goes out or a malfunction happens and they just keep singing. They keep singing. It's like, and I think that there's an opportunity for us that as these things blink out, to keep singing our song, to keep
Yeah.
singing our song of being heard, of being connected, even when the power's out.
And finding a way to give. I think one of the things that we can do to make ourselves feel the happiest and the most stable, other than, self care, rest, food,
Mm,
hot baths, meditation,
mhm.
stretching, exercise, spiritual practices, is how can I contribute? Because I think that's one of the things that people are struggling with the most right now. They were contributing at their jobs, they came home and felt like they'd given a good day's work.
Yep.
And suddenly there's a boredom. Well, we're bored because we don't feel like we're contributing.
Yeah.
My life hasn't changed that much. I'm still sitting here talking to people over the internet. I'm still broadcasting. I'm still doing my private sessions, answering emails,
Mhm.
putting up blogs, Facebooking around, you know. I don't get to go to my local dance, but and that's sad because that's where I like to really contribute a lot of love.
Have you been to one of those online Zoom dances yet?
Yes.
It's not quite the same, but
Can't say that I'm a fan yet. We'll see how another month of this, I might be just so excited about it. But when I go to dance, I don't try to stay in front of the camera to support people in the room.
yeah.
I actually dissolve my sense of self and expand my spirit that fills the room and then turns into a prayer for all beings. And I don't care about what I look like or if the lighting's good or if I'm muted or not. I'm yipping and yapping, and the music isn't going in and out and being broadcast on Facebook, but we're zooming here because the picture's better. And I don't know.
It's not the same.
It's
But
not the same.
mm, well, do you feel is there something that you would like to share? We put on the headline, talking about emotional hygiene.
Yeah,
And
we haven't really mentioned too much about how to do that. But I do love the graphic you made. That was gorgeous.
Oh, I found her. I was like, oh, this is so good. And I was waiting. I was just waiting. I'm like, who can I use this on? And I'm like, oh, beautiful lady with a safety mask on. Perfect.
Right. Yeah, Mona Lisa. Well, so this kind of dips back into the earlier part of our conversation is like, okay, so there's this kind of precarious path that feels wobbly and scary at first, and it's full of mishaps and redos and being able to trust and align and refine. And how do you actually get there? It's one thing to describe that such a thing exists. Yes, okay, here's a map, but can you show me the how to? And the how to is all about processing.
Mhm.
We can do anything we believe we can do. And anything that we feel too overwhelmed to try, or too overwhelmed or embarrassed or proud to redo, uh, we're going to suffer, and the world's going to suffer because they don't get our gifts. So, that little missing how to part that is such a key part of everything, whether it's having a healthy relationship or making money or learning how to Zoom or whatever it is about the psychological and emotional aspect. So, I'd love to lead a tap for people who are struggling with all of those fears and feelings that we talked about.
Mhm. Can I describe the way I feel tapping works for me?
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it's like if for anyone who's ever done yoga, there's that yoga pose that we want to do. Sometimes it's the first yoga pose, and it looks beautiful when someone else is doing it. But the moment you try to move into it, you notice that your back's too tight and that you don't really have the shape and you don't know where your balance is. And there's a bit of a process of softening, becoming aware of which muscles get tight and which muscles need to loosen up and which muscles need to support you. And I feel like tapping is doing that emotionally. Like you're actually feeling these places that you're tight. You're feeling you have the spiritual vision of where you want to go, but you're giving your psyche and even your body a little massage so that it can actually loosen up and feel safe enough to expand into that new frequency.
Yeah. I think that's a very apt description. It's kind of like a yoga class for the emotional body.
Hmm.
And you're literally creating neural networks. If you've been told all your life to that A, you're not allowed to feel, B, that you're a guy, so you don't have feelings, period. Um, and you've been raised in an emotionally suppressive society, you really won't have a great emotional vocabulary or the ability to acknowledge to yourself, much less to anyone else, what you're feeling, which means that when you like Google within, how am I feeling? You might come up with like, I'm not really sure, right? Because those neural networks aren't really connected. So when we're tapping, especially as a beginner, you're carving out little inroads called, hey, emotional body, how are we doing? This is a check in path that I'm creating. And then as you proceed to practice, you have kind of an auto check in. You actually do know how you feel. You actually do know what to do, and you can trust that automatic response, which isn't a reaction response. It's a, ah, this is what I feel. Thus, this is how I move these energies, and this is how I respond from a centered, grounded place.
Like when they put all those little earthquake sensitivity monitors all over the planet so they can feel when any little ripple, any little seismic activity happens. I feel like EFT gets your brain and your cognitive process to wire in those little sensitive microphones all over your electric field and all over your body, so you get a nice early warning, you know, when, like if the city needs to be evacuated, you know, early, you know, you feel those ripples, and you turn the sensitivity up so beautifully because it's safe to now. Like you can actually safely hear the signal because you now trust that you can process it. You trust that you know what to do with the signal, and so
Yeah.
you get, it's easy to change when the changing is easy sometimes.
And what's beautiful about this intense time is that the field is so loud with so much fear and anxiety that it's actually driving people to pay attention to how do I resolve this anxious feeling and panic attacks and things that people are having. And EFT is a great solution for that, including helping people deal with PTSD that's coming up because of feelings of powerlessness, feelings of being victimized, feelings of being told what to do, authoritarian, and do we trust the authority figures? So anything that's tagged with that in the body is now up for processing. And tapping is a quick way to like fast forward while accurately touching all that stuff. And the beauty of it is that you're actually learning how to love and accept yourself, your situation. And as you do that, it clears your neural network. And then you can make choices that will create more peace and happiness and health as we go, and strengthen the immune system, because tapping creates a ton of oxytocin, which is this neuropeptide, a chemical in the brain that comes when we have connection, love, sex, dancing, eye contact, skin contact, when we feel close and connected and cuddly, when we're singing, when we're dancing, we're actually generating a lot of oxytocin. So this is a quick way to process the past, deal with the present, and get into that yummy, good vibe space chemically and rebalance our bodies, which strengthens the immune system to up to 50%. And this is a book I want to promote. I didn't write it, but if you haven't seen it yet, for those of us who are into tapping, we're so relieved that this book finally came out. The Science Behind Tapping by
Oh,
Petra.
there's the field of the sun right there behind it, the coronal loops and arcs of the field.
Right. Petra Stapleton. So for those of you who want to know about all the research over the last 25 years and why this works and what universities studied it and how it's being applied, The Science of Tapping is available on Amazon. Yeah, Petra, P-E-T-A, Stapleton, PhD. All right, so.
By the way, Olivia Goodling, who used to be my roommate in Oregon, she says, I did Sonya's workshop at Star Star in 2018 with big hearts in her eyes, and we all cried.
Oh,
I
well,
had a similar experience, Olivia.
check it out. Look, you will see this poster. If you did it in 2018, that was my 2018 poster for Burning Man there in the background.
Mm.
Yeah. Yay.
I discovered you at Burning Man too, and it was your life purpose tap that was clearly an inflection point on my path. It's like you're going this way. I really felt the bend. I felt reality bend. I often feel reality bend during taps, but I really felt it that day.
I'm so happy to hear that. Well, I'll toss a little bit of that into this little mini session. It is my favorite tap, and I do have a version of that from Red Lightning on YouTube. However, my dress isn't tight and done correctly, so I have that experience when I look at this amazing video that changed people's lives. I threw on my dress. Somebody didn't pull it on tight enough. I went out there anyway. Oh. All right, here we go. So I think what would work best, Eric, is if you mute yourself so that anyone doing this can do it and just hear their own voice, and then we'll turn on your mic at the end.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks. Massaging the front of the chest, feeling around for a tender spot in the front of the chest. And the reason we start here is because there's an acupuncture point in the front of the chest where it feels a little tender. It's in the upper pectoral region or upper breast tissue. And it actually, this side is connecting to the opposite side of the brain. This side connects to that side of the brain. And you're telling your brain hemispheres that it's okay to turn on your logic and your emotion at the same time. And big deep breath, strong exhalation through a nice relaxed open mouth. Don't press your lips together when you sigh. That will give you the deepest release possible. And when I say this issue, I want you to plug in the issue you have around following the truth inside yourself at this time, knowing what you're supposed to be doing, how you're contributing either to your household, your family, yourself, or the world, and wherever you want to do it. And I just want to say, feel free to rewind this video and use it on multiple different aspects of this topic whenever you want to. All right, so big deep breath. Repeating after me, even though there's a part of me that feels hesitant to come out and bring my gifts to the world, I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the eyebrows. Part of me feels afraid. Tapping the temples. Afraid that I'm not good enough. Tapping the cheeks. That I won't get it right. Tapping under the nose. Big deep breath. Tapping under the lips. Part of me feels afraid of contributing what I really want to contribute. Tapping the chest. Afraid that I'll mess it up. That it won't go right. That I don't really know what I'm doing. Tapping the bottom of the front of the rib cage. Big deep breath. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tap the side of the ribs, even though I've been holding back for a long time. And just think back to how long you've had this impulse or this intuition, this secret desire to give what you have to give, but judged yourself as incompetent or not ready. Tapping the inside of the wrist. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the side of the thumb, right at the edge of the side of the thumb. I give myself permission to acknowledge this fear and judgment that's been inside of me for so long. Tapping the index finger and breathing. Tapping the middle finger. I deeply and completely accept myself. If that's too hard to say with a straight face, say, I'm open to deeply and completely accepting myself. Tapping the bottom of the fourth finger. Even though I've held myself back with procrastinating, saying I'm too busy. Tap the little finger. Feeling unprepared. Tap this side of the hand. That I don't have enough time or money to invest in it. That I'm not skilled enough yet. Tapping the top of the head. When will I be? When will I be? Tapping the side of the head and the back of the head. I have to start somewhere. Tapping the eyebrows. I give myself permission, tap the temples, to process this fear and insecurity. Tapping the cheeks. Okay, what are your greatest fears and insecurities? Luckily, no one can hear you or see you, so you can just blurt it all out. You've got 1 whole minute. All the fears, all the insecurities, straight off the top of your head, unedited. Go. Tapping under the nose. I'm afraid of what? Keep tapping and talking, tapping under the lips. Keep going. What else? Tapping the chest. Who are you afraid is going to judge you? YouTube? Your parents? Your lover? Your kids? Your neighbors? Oh, tapping the front of the ribs. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the side of the ribs, even though I've been trained to worry about what others will think of me. Tapping the inside of the wrist, how I will appear. Tap the side of the thumb. Part of me says I can't take that risk. Big deep breath, big sigh. Tapping the index finger. Don't worry if you're yawning, burping, laughing, crying, or farting at this point. Your body's just releasing old stress. Perfectly normal. It's called off-gassing. Tapping the middle finger. I give myself permission to notice where this anxiety comes from. Tapping the bottom of the fourth finger. There's so much fear in the field right now. Tap the little finger. How can I think clearly when everyone's freaked out? Tap the side of the hand. How can I begin to give my gifts or even sense what they truly are when there's so much stress and panic around me? Tapping the top of the head. I love and accept myself, even if these are the circumstances that I find myself in. Tap the eyebrows. This is what's happening in the world right now. Tap the temples. And I'm pissed. Tap the cheeks. As soon as I have the time, suddenly I'm super stressed. Tapping into the nose. I love and accept myself. Tapping under the lips, even though I feel too tired or disoriented. Tapping the chest. Due to all this fear and anxiety. Tapping the front of the ribs. I give myself permission to love and respect myself. Tapping the side of the ribs. I give myself permission to accept the state I'm in. So scan yourself and see what state you're in. Are you exhausted? Are you inspired? Whatever it is, I just want you to accept it for 1.5 minutes, 90 whole seconds of self-acceptance. Ready? Scanning and accepting where you're at as you tap the inside of the wrist and breathe. Tapping the side of the thumb. I give myself permission to accept where I'm at, even if it feels foggy. Tap the index finger, disorienting. And terrifying. Tap the middle finger. Tapping the bottom of the fourth finger. I allow myself to recognize my gifts and to find a creative way. Tap the little finger of experimenting and offering them. Tap the side of the hand. It doesn't have to be something huge. Tap the top of the head. It can be one small act. Just 1%. Tap the eyebrows. What would happen if I applied myself, tap the temples, 1% each day for some small period of time? Tapping under the nose. I give myself permission, tapping under the lips, to use this time to come alive. Tapping the chest and breathe. I allow myself to experiment. Tap the front of the ribs. I allow myself to play with these things. Tap the side of the ribs. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be up to snuff. Tap the inside of the wrist. This is me playing around and experimenting. This is how I learn and grow. Tap the side of the thumb. Tap the index finger. I give myself permission to play around and experiment. Tapping the middle finger. I allow this time to be creative and whimsical. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. Releasing my need for perfection or self-criticism. Tap the little finger, releasing where those tendencies came from. So let's talk about that for a second. Where did you learn to judge or attack yourself in your own head? Did you have a very critical parent? Did you have a staunch upbringing? Maybe really critical teachers or a sibling who criticized or mocked you. Tapping the top of the head. I'm releasing the power this held over me my entire life. Tapping the side of the head. Nobody's looking really good right now. Tap the eyebrows. Masks are off. This is a great time to start to experiment. The playing field is quite leveled right now. Tapping under the nose. I can release the need to judge or compare myself. Tapping under the lips. This is me developing the ability to really bring who I am, one little step at a time. What if I started to encourage myself? Tap the front of the ribs. So imagine what you would say to a child who is feeling a little scared, a little insecure, a little new at this. What would you say to them to encourage them? And use your name. So you'd say, I would say, Sonya, you got this. What you're doing is making a difference. Tap the side of the ribs. Say it again. Say it out loud like you really mean it. Like you really want this kid to get it. And tapping the inside of the wrist. Beautiful. Yeah. And tapping the side of the thumb, as you'll notice I've switched hands. You're welcome to switch hands with me. Let's say this encouraging statement or another one really enthusiastically. Tapping the index finger. I love you. What you're doing matters. Tap the middle finger. Watching you go for it inspires me. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. I'm going to give my gifts. Tap the little finger. No matter what condition they're in, I'm practicing right now. Tap the side of the hand. I'm experimenting. Big deep breath. Tapping the top of the head. I'm releasing the fear in my body, the anxiety in my stomach. Tapping the side of the head, the back of the head, the anxiety in my mind. Tap the eyebrows. It's okay for me to remember who I am. Tap the cheeks. Big, deep, noisy breath. Tapping into the nose to remember what I'm doing in this world. Tapping under the lips. To remember why I came here in the first place. Okay, we're a couple minutes from being done. I know this is going on, Eric, but I think we're on a roll. So I want to ask you all the same thing I asked my team on Tuesday. Why did you come to this world? Ask yourself 3 times, and then I want you to intuitively say the first thing that pops into your head. Ready? Why did I come into this world? Why did I come into this world? Why did I come into this world? Now listen for an answer. And blurt out the first thing that comes to mind. Tapping the front of the ribs. I came here to what? First thing. Doesn't even matter if it's right or wrong. Just say what pops into your head. Tap the side of the ribs. Big deep breath. Say it again with a little more conviction. I came here to... Big deep breath. Nod your head. Yes. Let your body get into alignment with this. Okay, body. Here we go. Tapping the inside of the wrist. A part of me remembers why I came here. Even if I've been trained not to listen. Up the side of the thumb. A part of me remembers my commitment. Up the index finger. And breathe. Woohoo! Tap the middle finger. A part of me remembers what I promised I would bring. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. A part of me is actually ready to offer that at the next level. Tap the little finger. This is my planet. These are my people. I came here to serve and to enjoy that process. I'm allowing my unique gifts and talents to be revealed. Tap the eyebrows, even if I'm afraid of how that will look and sound. Tapping the temples, big deep breath. Tapping the cheeks. This is my planet. Tapping under the nose. These are my people. Tapping under the lips. This is my human family. I have a part to play. Tap the chest. And I am commanding myself to remember my part, to feel my heart, to feel my body ringing with this truth. Tapping the front of the ribs. This is my internal GPS, my navigational system. Tap the side of the ribs. I'm going to make good use of this now. We're almost there. Tapping the inside of the wrist. I give myself permission to feel the truth, to remember what I'm doing. Tap the side of the thumb to release the resistance. Tap the index finger to be part of the evolution of my species. Tap the middle finger, breathe and make a sound of joy. Woo-hoo! Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. I get to be part of the evolution of my species. Tapping the little finger. This is an honor and a privilege. Tapping the side of the hand. I'm learning what the next step is right now. Tapping the top of the head. I give myself permission to take notes, to tune in, to understand these simple instructions coming from deep inside my own soul. I came here to participate. Tap the cheeks and to enjoy. Tapping under the nose. Whatever my part is, how big or small, it matters to me. And this is enough. All right, sweet beings, tap all over your body. Be your own inner cheerleader. Use your name. Say 5 loving statements, as awkward as that may feel. I want to hear you cheer yourself on as if you were cheering on a young child who was just getting their land legs on. I love you. I believe in you. I respect you. Your mission matters. And I'm so glad you're alive and here at this time. Good job. Good. And go ahead and turn your mic back on. Everyone just rest for a second in that new field that you've created. How are you feeling?
Tingle, tingle, tingle. Oh my goodness. Woo! Energy flow, energy flow. I feel delicious. I feel like I just went for a run.
Yeah, right? I feel kind of orgasmic through my whole body. All my parts are tingling and like, like I've been dancing or making love.
Yes. I feel the little static charge at the tip of my fingertips right now. Oh my goodness. It always, no matter how long I've been doing this, always surprises me how much I will yawn and like space out. And I could just feel my brain start to destructuralize and create space and expand and let these bits of information in and reform. And still to this day, it surprises me how much I'll feel.
I have the same experience. EFT blows me away every day. It's such a simple, effective, reliable way to get back inside our groove.
Yeah.
So I noticed that you had people commenting in. I'd love to hear what some people were saying.
Well, I commented some. I think Olivia. I read you what Olivia said. I think she might have, she had that poster, I believe, on a card in her bedroom
Aw,
that I remember her coming back with it. So, that was I told her stories about you long before she ever went to Burning Man. And then she went and, that was one of the highlights of her experience.
nice. Well, I made those cards to be kept. So I thought if I
Mm.
made them so beautiful that people couldn't throw them away, that they might become a part of their lives.
I also see Richard's here too. Hey, Richard,
Hi,
if you're there.
Richard. Well, I'm excited to um, have been able to give my gifts and to be given this opportunity to be with you today and to catch up with you.
Thanks so much. I treasure these conversations. It's wonderful to feel what can flow, when there's two open operating systems that can both transmit this kind of information. It's just so fun to see what goes back and forth in the dialogue.
Well, thank you, Eric, for following through on your inspiration and for being experimental with, okay, how much can I do and what should I do and who can I do it with, and for leading the way and blazing trail.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. You're in Austin, Texas now? Is this
I
your
am. Yes, it's a wet, cool, rainy spring day here in Austin.
Nice. I'm in Thessaloniki, Greece today, and Greek spring is exploding, and I'm looking at the mountains behind the city, just dying to get up there, and I can only go in my neighborhood right now. But sooner or later, this will be done, and I'll be romping around ruins and sniffing wildflowers and things like that.
Nice. Beautiful. Oh,
Well,
before we part, I want to give you the link. I'm sure you were about to mention that. So, worldtappingcircle.com is where you'll find me broadcasting live on Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. Eastern. The videos are always recorded if you sign up, which you can do for free. You'll be sent a text message reminder if you opt in for that, so that you'll get a note before Circle starts to get there. And
brilliant.
if you miss Circle, we'll send you the replay video. And if you want to see the circles that we've done, they're in the video library, and that all comes when you sign up.
Brilliant. Love that. Also, go visit Sonya's page and follow her on Facebook too. You'll get lots of timely tidbits and energetic downloads just from reading and scrolling down her page.
Thank you. I love
Uh,
you all. And thank you again, Eric. This has been a real joy.
yeah. Thanks, Sonya. Till we see each other again. I can't wait to give you a real hug.
I know, right? Let me know when you're back in the country.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Have a fabulous day.